Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 3 added a ton of new sprites, but the biggest question is which ones are actually worth using. Some sprites can completely change the way you play and give you a huge advantage in fights, while others sound good, but do not really help when you need them most. Today we are ranking the best and worst sprites in Fortnite across overall builds and zero build. We are looking at their abilities, how useful they are in real matches, and how much they actually help you win games. Starting off with the overall rankings, let's see which sprites are actually the best. Starting off with the number 1 sprite overall, we have the Striker sprite. This sprite is honestly one of the strongest because movement is one of the most important things in Fortnite. After you mantle, hurdle, or wall scramble, you get overdrive, which gives you a speed boost effect that makes your movement much faster. This is amazing for chasing players, escaping bad situations, and getting around the map quicker when you need to rotate. The biggest reason Striker is so good is because the ability helps you in so many different situations throughout a match. Whether you're pushing enemies or trying to survive until the end game, having better movement gives you a huge advantage. That is why the Striker Sprite takes the number 1 spot overall. Coming in at number 2 overall, we have the 0 Point Sprite. This sprite is one of the strongest defensive options because it can save you when you are in a bad situation. When you heal yourself, the 0 Point Sprite creates a shield bubble junior around you, giving you protection while you recover. This is extremely useful when you are caught in the open, trying to heal after a fight, or need a few seconds to reset before fighting again. The biggest reason 0 Point is ranked this high is because surviving fights is just as important as dealing damage in Fortnite. Especially in zero build, this ability becomes even stronger because you do not have builds to protect yourself from incoming damage. That is why the 0 Point Sprite takes the number 2 spot overall. Taking the number 3 spot overall, we have the Ghost Sprite. This sprite is really strong because after reloading your weapon, it gives you a short invisibility effect that can create some insane opportunities during fights. This ability lets you surprise enemies, reposition when you need to, or escape when a fight is not going your way. The biggest reason Ghost is ranked so high is because it rewards players who know when to make smart plays instead of just rushing everything. A well-timed invisibility effect can completely change a fight and give you an opening that you normally would not have. That is why the Ghost Sprite earns the number 3 spot overall. At number 4 overall, we have the Boss Sprite. This sprite is a really strong choice because it increases your max health and shield, giving you more protection and making you harder to eliminate during fights. Having extra health can help you survive situations where you normally would have been eliminated and gives you more chances to win close battles. The biggest reason Boss Sprite is ranked this high is because staying alive longer is one of the most important things in Fortnite. Especially in zero build, having extra health and shield is a massive advantage because you do not have builds to block damage. That is why the Boss Sprite takes the number 4 spot overall. Finishing the top 5 overall, we have the King Sprite. This sprite is a great choice for players who like building because its ability increases pickaxe damage, making collecting materials faster and easier. This can help you stay prepared during longer fights where running out of materials can put you at a huge disadvantage. The biggest reason King Sprite makes the list is because resources are such an important part of winning build fights. Even though it does not directly help you eliminate enemies, having more materials can give you more options during a match. That is why the King Sprite finishes the top 5 overall. Starting off the worst overall sprites, we have the Water Sprite. This sprite sounds useful because its ability restores shield while you are in water. But the biggest problem is that you need water nearby to actually get value from it. This makes it extremely inconsistent because most fights do not happen in the perfect location for this ability to be useful. The biggest reason Water Sprite ranks so low is because it does not help you during most important moments in a match. Compared to sprites that give you movement, protection, or combat advantages, this one just does not provide enough value. That is why the Water Sprite takes the number 1 spot for worst overall. Coming in at number 2 for the worst overall sprites, we have the Duck Sprite. This sprite is definitely one of the most unique because it allows you to restore shields by emoting or jamming. The problem is that standing still during a real fight is extremely risky because enemies can easily take advantage of that moment. The biggest reason Duck Sprite ranks so low is because the ability sounds cool, but it is not very practical when you are trying to win. Most players would rather have a sprite that helps them instantly during a fight instead of needing time to use it. That is why the Duck Sprite takes the number 2 spot for worst overall. Taking the number 3 spot for the worst overall sprites, we have the Dream Sprite. This sprite has a cool idea because it gives you rewards as it levels up during the match. The problem is that you have to wait before getting the best value, and Fortnite is a game where things can happen instantly. The biggest reason Dream Sprite ranks low is because it does not give you enough help when you are actually fighting. Having an ability that helps right away is usually much better than waiting for a reward later. That is why the Dream Sprite takes the number 3 spot for worst overall. At number 4, for the worst overall sprites, we have the Punk Sprite. This sprite can give you useful effects, but the biggest problem is that it is not always consistent when you need it. Sometimes the ability can help you a lot, but other times it might not really change the outcome of a fight. The biggest reason Punk Sprite ranks lower is because reliable abilities are usually much stronger in Fortnite. When you are in an important fight, you want something you know will give you an advantage. That is why the Punk Sprite takes the number 4 spot for worst overall. Finishing the worst overall ranking, we have the Earth Sprite. This sprite helps you get better loot, which can definitely be useful when starting a match. The problem is that better loot does not always help you win the fights that actually decide the game. The biggest reason Earth Sprite ranks lower is because it does not directly improve your movement, survival, or combat. It can help you get a stronger loadout, but other sprites have abilities that make a much bigger impact. That is why the Earth Sprite finishes the worst overall list. Starting off the best build mode sprites, we have the King Sprite. This sprite is easily one of the strongest choices for builds because its ability increases pickaxe damage, making it much faster to collect materials and stay prepared. This is extremely useful during long build fights because running out of materials can instantly put you at a huge disadvantage. The biggest reason King Sprite is number 1 in builds is because having enough resources can completely change how a fight plays out. More materials allow you to protect yourself, take height, and keep pressure on your opponent without worrying about running out. That is why the King Sprite takes the number 1 spot in build mode. Coming in at number 2 for build mode, we have the Ghost Sprite. This sprite is extremely useful because after reloading your weapon, it gives you a short invisibility effect that can create some really strong plays. This can help you surprise opponents, get better angles, or make a smart escape when a build fight gets too intense. The biggest reason Ghost Sprite is ranked this high is because build fights are all about outplaying your opponent and creating openings. Being able to disappear for a moment can give you the perfect chance to take control of the fight. That is why the Ghost Sprite takes the number 2 spot in build mode. Taking the number 3 spot in build mode, we have the Striker Sprite. This sprite is extremely powerful because after you mantle, hurdle, or wall scramble, Overdrive gives you a speed boost effect that improves your movement. This helps you move around builds faster, chase opponents who are trying to escape, and get better positions during fights. The biggest reason Striker is so good in builds is because movement is still one of the most important parts of winning fights. Being able to quickly reposition can help you avoid damage and create plays your opponent does not expect. That is why the Striker Sprite earns the number 3 spot in build mode. At number 4 in build mode, we have the Boss Sprite. This sprite is a really solid choice because it increases your max health and shield, giving you extra protection during intense fights. Having more health can help you survive mistakes and gives you more opportunities to fight back when you would normally get eliminated. The biggest reason Boss Sprite is useful is because longer build fights often come down to who has more health left at the end. Even though the ability is simple, it gives you an advantage in almost every fight you take. That is why the Boss Sprite takes the number 4 spot in build mode. Finishing the top 5 build mode sprites, we have the 0 Point Sprite. This sprite creates a shield bubble junior when you heal yourself, giving you protection while you recover after taking damage. This can be extremely helpful when you need a safe moment to heal and get ready for the next part of a fight. The biggest reason 0 Point is ranked here is because it gives you another way to survive during important moments. While it is not as focused on building as some other sprites, staying alive is still one of the most important things in Fortnite. That is why the 0 Point Sprite finishes the top 5 in build mode. Starting off the worst build mode sprites, we have the Water Sprite. This sprite restores shield while you are in water, but the biggest problem is that build fights usually happen in random locations around the map. This means you are rarely going to have the perfect situation where the ability actually helps you. The biggest reason Water Sprite ranks last in builds is because it does not give you any advantage during an actual build fight. Compared to sprites that improve movement, resources, or survival, this ability just does not provide enough value. That is why the Water Sprite takes a number 1 spot for worst build sprite. Coming in at number 2 for the worst build sprites, we have the Duck Sprite. This sprite is unique because it allows you to restore shields by emoting or jamming. The problem is that build fights are extremely fast, and standing still for an emote can give your opponent an easy opportunity to attack. The biggest reason Duck Sprite struggles in builds is because the ability takes too long and is too risky to use. Having a sprite that helps you instantly is much more valuable when you are fighting another player. That is why the Duck Sprite takes the number 2 spot for worst build sprite. Taking the number 3 spot for the worst build sprites, we have the Dream Sprite. This sprite has an interesting ability because it gives you rewards as it levels up throughout the match. The problem is that the rewards take time, and build fights usually require abilities that help you immediately. The biggest reason Dream Sprite ranks low is because waiting for value does not help when you're in the middle of a fight. Other sprites provide advantages that you can use instantly to protect yourself or win battles. That is why the Dream Sprite takes the number 3 spot for worst build sprite. At number 4, for the worst build sprites, we have the Punk Sprite. This sprite can provide useful effects, but the biggest issue is that the ability is not always consistent. Sometimes it can help you during a fight, but other times it might not have much impact at all. The biggest reason Punk Sprite ranks lower is because build players usually need abilities they can depend on every single time. Reliable advantages are much more valuable than effects that are unpredictable. That is why the Punk Sprite takes the number 4 spot for worst build sprite. Finishing the worst build mode ranking, we have the Earth Sprite. This sprite helps you find better loot, which can definitely be useful when starting a match. The problem is that better loot does not directly help you win a build fight against another player. The biggest reason Earth Sprite ranks lower is because builds are more about mechanics, movement, and resources during fights. While it can help you get a stronger loadout, other sprites have abilities that make a much bigger difference. That is why the Earth Sprite finishes the worst build mode ranking. Starting off the best zero build sprites, we have the 0 Point Sprite. This sprite is one of the strongest choices in zero build because when you heal yourself, it creates a shield bubble junior around you. This ability is extremely powerful because you do not have builds to protect yourself when you're trying to heal. The biggest reason 0 Point is number 1 in zero build is because surviving fights is one of the most important parts of the mode. Being able to safely recover after taking damage can completely change the outcome of a fight. That is why the 0 Point Sprite takes the number 1 spot in zero build.